Welcome, everybody. So we are actually live on LinkedIn, and I'm Krista Maleon, your host. I'm a business and marketing strategist and a LinkedIn content creator, and I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, so I care a lot about the journey. And this week, I would love to highlight a guest who is celebrating 3 years of business, which is quite an accomplishment. If you're an entrepreneur, you'll know what I mean. So congratulations and welcome to the show, Claudio
Gutierrez. Thank you for having me, Krista. And yes, 3 years, it's a very exciting time for us.
It is, I can imagine. So the purpose of this live is to really, celebrate your accomplishment. But I think a lot of my audience, a lot of people on LinkedIn are there for business, either trying to find a job, build their careers, or start their own businesses. So hearing about a successful entrepreneur's journey can really inspire and motivate and answer a lot of people's questions, what it's like to be an entrepreneur and what it takes to get there, right, to where you're at today. So I hope that's good. We can talk about this today. But first and foremost, I want to just tell everyone what your company does. So today we're celebrating Valens Project Consulting, which is an engineering and project management services firm based in Houston, Texas, serving Texas-wide and all states pretty much. And you are the CEO of the company.
Yes.
And so welcome. And so we're going to be talking today about Valens. And, let's start at the beginning. So I'd love to know a little bit about what were you doing before you started Valens?
Sure. So I'm an engineer by degree and by background, and my career path took the usual route of a typical engineer. I climbed through the ranks and I reached middle management. I was the head of the engineering department at a big electrical cable company, and I was also a project manager. So as a single guy with no family and not married or no kids or anything, I was always chosen, selected to go lead big projects that sometimes took several months. And these projects were all over the planet. So sometimes they wouldn't want to fly me back and forth too frequently to China, for instance, or to Vietnam, or to South Africa, or to Norway. So I would have to spend considerable amounts of time all over the planet. It sounds fun, but after a while, even flying in business class hurts after a while too. So being in Houston, an engineer is always tangentially related to the oil and gas industry. There was a downturn, and in 2017, I got let go. It was the fourth round of layoffs, and it happened. I could see the writing on the wall and said, so I immediately started consulting. And after discussing with several people and also getting inspired by other stories, I decided to form Valens Project Consulting. Valens, by the way, means fortitude, valor. And in some contexts, it means nourishment in Latin, So then Valens Project Consulting has been around now officially since 2018, since all the incorporation papers were ready just over 3 years ago. And we specialize in helping out small fabricators, manufacturers, and industrial distributors that don't have their own engineering in-house resources.
Amazing. So when you were thinking about, okay, what do I do next? You had sounds like a very busy career, very stressful, and then suddenly the layoffs happened. When you were thinking about starting your own firm, did you already know more or less what services were needed in your industry, or did you go through a phase of trying to figure that out? Like, how quick was your clarity about what are you going to actually do professionally?
Well, I had seen a need for the type of services that we offer, especially among the smaller companies in pretty much every industry. Not every company wants to pay an engineer $120,000, little less have their own engineering department in which they're going to have to invest $500,000. So we would come in at a fraction of the salary of a single engineer and offer a suite of engineering disciplines and project management as well. So it was a no-brainer for some companies, but one of our biggest obstacles to overcome is that as Sometimes people have been doing the same thing over and over again with the blinders on for 30 years. So they don't like a new set of eyes to come in. But when they do allow us to come in, it just blows their mind. Things change. Things improve. There's always a better way to do something. As a matter of fact, continuous improvement is one of our guiding principles.
I love it. So if I was an engineering firm and you're convincing me to hire you, what would be the biggest benefit that I would get out of it compared to the alternatives, right? So the alternatives are hiring someone for over 100K, especially in Texas, very competitive market, or outsourcing to, let's say, India or somewhere far, far away. So there's a kind of an extremes, right? My alternatives.
Well, first of all, Krista, we don't necessarily target engineering companies. We target companies that don't have their own engineering departments. So like small fabricators, small manufacturers, there's a growing trend in the industrial distribution world to offer turnkey packages to compete with the Walmarts and the Amazons of the world. So that's where we come in to sort of offer a turnkey, help them offer a turnkey package. And when it comes to considering both extremes, the outsourced engineering in India, for instance, well, there's always a time difference. There's always a quality difference. Even though they speak English, it's often to understand local dialects. So the fact that we're local, the fact that we're small, versatile, and extremely fast reaction times, those are our advantages.
I love it. So it's like David versus Goliath compared to the big engineering firms. So small manufacturers can up level with high quality services in a local time zone, quick turnarounds, competitive pricing, without having to go nuts on trying to deal with people overseas or pay a real in-house engineer when they may not need them full time either, right? This may not be something they need every day.
And our business model takes that into account. We don't want to surprise companies when all of a sudden they need an engineering project right away, and we surprise them with an $83,000 bill. No, we spread it out on a small retainer, monthly retainer basis, so that by the time they do need our services, by the time they do need something yesterday, as is often the case here in Houston in the oil and gas industry, well, we've already been paid because we've been spreading it out over the last few months. Of course, that's one way that one of our business models, and we also work on a project-by-project basis.
Well, it definitely sounds like it can help you. It can help smaller firms compete against larger firms because they don't have to foot the bill up front to hire and pay for a very big thing if they're spreading it out over a retainer. So it sounds like you have a really smart business model to help people.
And it also gives any particular firm an advantage to its peers, because if a small fabricator is competing against an equal fabricator, well, all of a sudden they have Valens behind them, and they're going to produce better shop drawings, more accurate projects, more formal and professional presentations, etc. So we are the extra oomph that they need to beat out their competitors, their peers.
I love it. So I think a lot of people wonder about taking that leap, for you, maybe that layoff was a blessing in disguise that really got you to thinking about this. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in year one?
Oh, well, obviously always prospecting, right? Always going after projects or finding new customers, getting your foot in the door, getting past that gatekeeper. But, persistence pays off in the end, and no problem is impossible to fix. So a no is just a way to get to a yes eventually. I mean, within reason. You can't pester somebody to death,
Well, what you just said, I think, is one of the qualities that I look for when someone asks me, is entrepreneurship really for me? And, the fear of failure, the fear of hearing no, you have to have grit, really this mental toughness to keep going and be like, that's fine. That's part of the journey, instead of just thinking it should happen right away, that you set up shop and the customers just will flood in. And if they don't, you should quit. Right.
Yeah.
So persistence, right?
Persistence is key. And Krista, this kind of flows nicely into a few things that I've learned and that I would advise people to be aware of when they're going off on their own. First and foremost, and this is a philosophy that I personally live by, and we've also applied at Valens, always aim to delight the customer. Go above and beyond. So that way you'll be remembered, you'll make a good impression, and they'll keep coming back. Two, you only eat what you kill. So if you're not out there and hustling all the time, that funnel's going to dry up. So you should always be in hustle mode and trying to kill your next prey. And three, and this is something that I particularly struggled with for years as an engineer, absolutely everything in business is sales. And that's something that's not really hammered home in engineering school. As an engineer, you're given projects. You're not actually out there chasing the projects. But once you're off on your own as an entrepreneur, you quickly realize that absolutely everything in business and in life, because if I want to go talk to the pretty blonde at the bar, I have to go sell myself. So exactly the same with business, Everything.
If you want to get into the front of the line at the busy restaurant or the new nightclub, you have to know the manager. You have to sweet talk your way in. And when you talk about sales, could I ask you, what is your philosophy about the importance of relationships behind sales? Because
it's all about relationships.
Right now, there's a lot of talk about sales, Claudio, about the quick pitch or the lead gen machine versus taking the time to really hone in on your audience, do your research, and then wine and dine them over time. So a lot of people want the first, right? They just want like a press a button and then all the clients come in. You just keep calling, they'll, pestering them. But then there's this other like more slow cook method. What's your ideal formula? Which camp are you in?
Well, since coming from corporate America, the projects that we worked on took months to come to fruition, sometimes up to 2 years. And apparently for an engineer, I have people skills. So they would always put me in front of the customer. They would always send me to wine and dine the customer. So I believe in that because it's a tried and proved method in my background that I know works for the big projects. Now, there's also something to be said about the sustaining activities of getting small businesses, the small projects from time to time. But that shouldn't be at the expense. Well, you shouldn't have that making a quick buck mentality. For me, it's all about relationships. I never burn bridges. I have no grudges against corporate America and against any customers that decided not to use our services. So I never try to burn bridges, and I always try to build relationships.
This is such great advice. I think a lot of people are thinking about this when they start off and they don't know if they're headed in the right direction or not. What has made maybe the biggest impact on your business over time? Like, is there some particular thing that you ramped up on, invested in, that you think was key to your success today?
Well, now I know that we have all these tools at our disposal, all these social networks at our disposal, and professional networks as well. So I've obviously been very involved in in-person networking, but what do you do, especially in this COVID age? What do you do when you can't network and shake hands all the time? Well, you have to leverage the tools that are already out there, one of which is this, LinkedIn and other social networks. So does that answer your question, Krista?
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of LinkedIn, so we're live on LinkedIn right now.
Good.
And as well as YouTube and Twitter. Just FYI, you'll find out after the live.
Nice.
What do you think? How do people get the most out of LinkedIn? I mean, it is an ongoing battle, but are there any tips that you've learned? Because I know you get a lot of your clients through LinkedIn. You invest a lot of time on LinkedIn. So give some advice for people who are like trying to drum up business using LinkedIn.
First and foremost, consistency is key. You can't just use it one time and then 3.5 months later come back to it and try to answer those emails, those messages that you got. They'll be gone by then. They'll be worthless by then. So consistency is key. Identify your target audience. Be like laser focused. So don't go for that shotgun approach that I made the mistake of doing at the beginning years ago.
We all did.
Yes. So it's all about quality over quantity. So do that laser focused approach. And again, relationships, don't just randomly like things, actually engage in thoughtful conversations with individuals. And I think if you follow those three things, consistency, laser focusing, and relationship building, you'll see some nice results from it.
That's great advice. LinkedIn is so powerful, but it's only as powerful as you know how to use it. It's like giving someone a gun, and if they don't take off the security lock, they don't know how to put bullets in there.
Yes.
It's useless, right? So
Yes.
Where do you see Valens headed next? Do you have any big plans in the works?
Well, the plan is to always try to get in over our heads, to land so many projects, so many big projects that we have no choice but to expand and follow the road of the other big boy engineering companies and project management companies. So we're always chasing, we're always trying to chew off more than we can bite, so to speak.
Love it.
Yes, and ideally, Krista, would like to also expand into services that are needed universally. So what does everybody need? Well, medicine. So we're always trying to expand into the medical industry. Everybody always needs food. And we've dabbled in the food industry, food and beverage industry, and waste management. Absolutely every big city on planet Earth deals and with waste management. So those are all things that are universal across the board that a project management firm like Valens can help with.
I like your approach because those are things that are never going out of style, it's not a fashion or a trend. We know that we're always going to need those things, and that we're always looking for technology to improve or systems to get better to handle those things. So if you're in that area, you'll have your foot in the door forever. You'll be good.
Pretty much, yes.
Oh, that's great. Are there any setbacks that you experienced on your way here that you just want to share with us? You don't have to, but sometimes when people see success stories like yours, they just imagine that it was just always easy for you. You were already a successful engineer. You just started your business and the clients flooded in, and now you're in year 3. And I know as well as you that it's never like it seems. There are certain struggles. Was there anything that comes to mind that you want to tell us?
Well, we all have our horror stories from 2020, from the last year, right? That's when that's when we lost half of our customers. We were ready to hunker down for the whole year and expect zero income, but luckily that was not the case. So that was obviously a big struggle. Another one has been like when customers don't renew for whatever reason, they don't renew contracts, or whenever they break them. Like during COVID, we didn't go after people who had broken contracts precisely because we want them to come back. Hey, we understand that these are strange times, so no hard feelings. Come back when you're ready, and that's been the case. We've had customers come back after that. But the biggest trouble, the biggest setback I think that we've had is that I speak as the president of Valens, I don't know what I don't know. So I thought that once I built this company, customers would just come flooding in. No, there's a whole other discipline. There's a whole other world out there of marketing, of making yourself visible, of having a presence everywhere that I had no idea about. So that's been a struggle, and that's been something that LinkedIn has helped with very much, and having a better webpage has also helped too, and will continue helping, I hope.
Well, it does seem like today, you said earlier, in engineering school, you don't learn by default sales, yes. But in a way, when you become a CEO, it's not just sales, is it? You have to know marketing, you have to know sales, you have to know operations, you have to know finances.
Psychology too.
There you go. Psychology, become a therapist for your employees someday. I mean, it's definitely, you're wearing many hats, especially until you grow big enough to actually delegate all that and hire people. But in a way, it's good you go through that, because as a small business owner, then you're not blindly hiring people thinking that they have a magic wand. You actually understand to a certain degree what marketing really is or what sales really is. So you work as a partner versus just having unrealistic expectations or just like this, complete ignorance around those areas. So it makes you a better CEO in the end, right? To have
I completely agree. And I think that it's a never-ending process. You're always going to have to learn the latest and greatest disciplines that are out there, and our skills and platforms. So for me, that's always, and I like learning. So for me, it's a never-ending process, and I hope to find more resources that can help in that area too.
Well, you just hit on another key skill is leaders are readers, right? So it's true that one of the qualities that I look for in an entrepreneur is that they're willing to learn new things, because some people just think you get out of college, you've been trained in one area, then you execute on that, and that's it. You have a profession, and the world has changed, right? Today, we just talked about wearing all these different hats and dabbling and getting to know all these different areas. If you stop learning, you stop growing, right? And then your business will suffer. So it's great to see you have all the right qualities for success.
Well, and I also don't want to turn into those customers that I criticize that have their blinders on. I also don't want to be that guy, that big dinosaur that keeps doing things the way that they were done in the year 2009. No, and we're looking forward to 2030 already.
Right. And that's your message to them then, right? That they have to really stop just being in the old way, because they won't compete if they don't change. They won't be in the position.
Exactly. There's always a better way to do something. There's always continuous improvement. That's one of our philosophies.
All right. Well, this is wonderful. I'd love to know any last words of advice you have for someone who's listening to this who hasn't made the jump. So like they're a project engineer or anything really, but they are thinking, is entrepreneurship going to be okay for me?
Well, I would say to get started as soon as possible, even if you're not sure if you're going to go full-fledged entrepreneur mode. Get started, at least register your company, get the paperwork ready, because one of these days when you finally consider yourself an expert, well, you want the groundwork to have been laid already. It also sounds cheesy, but never give up. And I love that I'm not making other people rich right now. Now it's all coming to our company. So yes, that feeling, you'll enjoy it when you finally decide to make that leap.
Well, at least you know that everything that goes into your pocket is your own, and you worked for it, and the sky is the limit, which means it's not someone else deciding, I'm just going to give you a little bit, or every year I'm going to increase your salary by 1%. It's you. If you want to increase your salary next year by 100%, you work 100% harder, but it comes back right away.
Yep.
Right? That's
and 100%
great.
Smarter too, not necessarily harder, right?
Absolutely. That's something we all struggle with, is that balance between actually doing the work and then going out there and, like you said, hustling, always having that forward thinking look about how can I learn, how can I get the competitive edge? Because if you're just in the work all the time, you won't grow, and your competitors will quickly overtake you. So this is really great advice. And I think if any time, now is the right time. Exactly. Because COVID, we worked, a lot of people, they either lost their job or they had to work from home. And now going back to the office, a lot of mentalities has changed. It's maybe not as accepted by people to just go back full time as before, because of the new freedoms they've come accustomed to. So there's a lot of time for reflection about maybe going down the entrepreneur path.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'd love to know where people can reach Valens. So tell me a little bit where to contact you, where to find out more about your services.
Well, my phone number is I'm not going to give out my personal phone number, but our website, of course, is valensprojectconsulting.com. Will that appear somewhere below later?
So let me see. I think I can put it on the screen right now.
And also, you can book an appointment with us by following our Calendly account. I sent it to you, Chris. I don't know if you were going to put it up later. And of course, you can always email me directly at claudio@valensprojectconsulting.com. And of course, LinkedIn. I've been very active on that consistently, like I was claiming before.
Absolutely. Well, we're wishing you another 30 years of Valens minimum. So the 3 years will turn into an empire for future generations. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I will put all your contact info in the show notes. And this will all go out and be reposted on LinkedIn and YouTube. So people who couldn't tune in live, please don't hesitate to watch the replay and reach out to Claudio, especially if you are in the position where you are thinking about hiring some project management engineering services. Valens is really an amazing company. So let's support you and give you a round of applause. Congrats for 3 years this week.
Thank you. Take care, Krista.
Thanks. Talk soon.
Bye.